Hey everyone, my name's Nathan Pay. Welcome to our next episode of Coffee and Crypto. Today we've got a special guest joining us, DeusRising. Thanks for coming along.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited. He's my brother-in-law, and he's also involved in our game guild. But maybe we should talk about that because you've actually came into the game guild a little bit differently. We'll start with this than a lot of the other players. And really, what I want to do is pivot and spend most of today's talk talking about Heroes of Mavia. And then before we end, I'll kind of end it on the state of market and talk a little bit about kind of what's going on right now, because really interesting time in my opinion. But yeah, let's start with kind of how you got involved with the Game Guild and kind of how that all transpired.
Sure, that's actually really interesting because I wasn't aware that I was unique in how I entered the guild. I thought there was a variety of people coming in a variety of different ways. So the thing that actually really sparked my interest was coming across Heroes of Mavia. Before I was even aware that you were creating a guild alliance, I guess you could say, for Heroes of Mavia. It's something that I came across all on my own. And then when I discovered that you were deeply embedded and had already created a structure around moving into it as a team, it just was a no-brainer to actually get involved.
Well, it's interesting because it synced up really well because during the time that you kind of reached out and we started talking and realized that you had done this research and we were both kind of looking at the same thing was the same time I was finalizing the structure of the game guild to be really unique and different in this space, because most game guilds, the way that they work is there's a sponsorship or a scholar model where basically in order to come into the game guild, you have to operate the guild's assets. That's it. That's the model. And a lot of game guilds have done really well building multi-million-dollar businesses around this. But the thing that was always on my mind is, how is this going to promote competitive aspects, or how can a team or a guild be competitive when in order for someone to enter, they can't use their own assets, they can't use their own investments. And you very clearly wanted to purchase the land and be actively involved in Mavia. So it was really synchronistic because I had already been fleshing out that model. And then here was kind of the first example for someone to come in with their own lands, with their own assets. So yeah, it kind of timed out really well.
And all of this is new to me. Like, my exposure to gaming guilds do not involve play to earn games. Okay. You know, like getting exposed to a guild in Diablo 3, you don't have to worry about assets. It's like you're playing the game and you're trying to be the best that you can be at the game, and then the best players join the best guild.
Yeah.
It's like you have to try out for it. So I had that in mind. Just for context for all the people who are watching, I don't have a lot of experience with NFT games and cryptocurrency. This is something that I'm really just starting to step into now. And Mavia is one of the things that has drawn me into that space. So I'm kind of learning as I'm going right now, which is one of the reasons why it took me some time to actually figure out how other guilds have functioned and how your guild functions. So the fact that your guild is unique is not something that would have even entered my mind, because I've never been exposed to anything before. I was just like, hey, a really awesome game with a lot of financial potential, I'm in.
Yeah.
What do you mean everybody's operating guild assets? I have money and I want to participate. What's going on?
Right. And it's cool to see the space transforming too, and people being able to have these innovative ideas and deploy them, because game guilds have only been around for like a year, 2 years. This is a new space. We're all kind of trying to figure it out. Even though I'm sure you've noticed, just looking into play to earn titles, all these AAA games are still in development, right? A lot of the play to earn games are simply logging in, clicking on a shiny object every couple hours.
I'm actually writing a spoken word piece about this.
Right?
That's one of the lines in
Yes, that's what inspired me to say that. And it's very true, though, to see like we're in the infancy stages. And to me, this is the building phase. This is the exciting phase. Like, I love this. I love seeing all these different business models come out, some working, some not. And I just decided to try something different, because I didn't like the idea of not being able to accommodate people who are interested, who owned their own assets. And as soon as Mavia announced the free-to-play aspect, I was like, okay, that seals it. Because now there's an opportunity for free-to-play players, players who are investors and own their own assets, and the potential sponsorship for all of them to come together, because that's how you're going to find the best players in the world.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I bet you some of the best players are going to be free-to-play players, especially starting out, because it's a global launch, right?
Yep.
So not everybody's going to have the assets to get in on the ground floor. even at the ground floor.
Yep.
And they're going to have to build their way in. But, who knows where this is going to go with sponsorships and all of these different guilds. And then being able to access the guild asset as a way of building up their own resources. It's really, really exciting for everybody. Like people who can get in at this stage and everybody who's just waiting to play the game and be good at it.
That's right. What got you really so excited about the style of the game and the gameplay and things like that? Because like you said, you really kind of found this on your own. And then only later did me and you kind of realize, hey, we're both looking at this seriously. What really sparked your interest quite a bit when you were looking through it and researching it? And did you have any experience with Clash of Clans or Axie? Or I guess you said you're new to play at Earn Space, so probably not Axie. But have you tried a game like this before? With this gameplay mechanics or this type of like resource management stuff?
Not Clash of Clans. Okay. I'm a lifelong gamer, so I've been exposed to a huge variety of games, but most of them have been some variety of AAA console or computer games. Very rarely have I dipped my toes into any kind of mobile game, and I've never touched an NFT game before this. Okay. So that being said, I have been exposed to what some of the other guild members are doing, who are working with you who I'm actually living with. So I get to see what they're doing, and it just didn't interest me at all. Logging in to click on an inanimate object every 4 hours doesn't interest me. I have a coaching practice. I'm a facilitator. I have other things that I'm doing throughout the day. I don't just practically have the time to log in and do that. So one of the things that interested me about Heroes of Mavia is that it's a legitimate game. Everything that I've been exposed to up until this point in terms of play to earn has been really static. It hasn't even been a game. It's just been a mechanism that kind of incentivizes you to log in regularly to click on something. That's not fun to me. I'm looking for something that's actually going to be engaging and something that is skill-based, strategy-led, both with attacking and defending is what interests me, because my mind works in terms of optimizing systems. That's one of the reasons why I like games so much, and strategy games in particular with a really, really high skill ceiling. That really interests me. And then the structure of Clash of Clans, which I've only started learning, like I downloaded it and started playing it in preparation for Heroes of Mavia, seeing all of the interlinking systems and how you could turn that into a sustainable tokenomics system that's actually profitable, as well as being fun and interesting and emergent. Like you can add in gameplay elements that will fit seamlessly into the structure they've already built. Yes, it just made sense to start getting involved with the growing interest and popularity in cryptocurrencies and NFTs, which I've been interested in a while, but haven't wanted to put all the time and energy into learning. It's so much more interesting if it's in the format of a game that's actually fun to play. So that is what really united those concepts for me and actually motivated me to get involved. Seeing how a lot of these things are exploding, and then you take an extremely successful template off of even just Clash of Clans. I don't even know the other game. What is it?
Axie Infinity.
Axie Infinity. So I've never heard that, never played it, don't know anything about it. But just Clash of Clans being so incredibly popular, I've seen hundreds of ads for Clash of Clans since 2013. I know it exists. I know hundreds of millions of people play it. So something based off of that template in a play to earn format is incredibly exciting. And it's the thing that motivated me to start learning about these systems.
See, and that's really interesting because I came from a little bit of a different way. I was really immersed in the play to earn space for quite a few months. I'm very familiar with Axie Infinity. They're the ones that they did pioneer the whole scholar idea. Being able to have a trustless lending system where a business or an entity could own assets and allow someone else to operate on their behalf. They're the ones that really did that first. And there's been a lot of ups and downs and trials and tribulations for sure, but they really kind of paved the way for this space. And then there's been quite a few other play to earns, like games that came out kind of like you said, where they were missing the fun. And that's kind of been a common theme in a lot of these play to earn games is, well, it's great, we're earning money. There's this play to extract aspect where like you're just playing to simply get the value out. Is that sustainable? Where's the fun factor? And then we've seen a lot of these AAA studios come together where they're like, hey, we raised a ton of money. we're dedicated to this. We're going to make a AAA title. And I knew the moment that there was a Clash of Clans style game made like this, my life would be completely different forever. Because I'm an ex-pro Clash of Clans player. I played at the highest level in the world tournaments, in the competitive leagues. I led a clan. I spent over 10 years playing the game.
Which I also didn't know before I got involved in this guild.
Yes. So I spent a lot of time invested in that world. Now, I took a break when I went to university. I stopped for a couple of years. Cheating was a big issue for a while there. That rubbed me the wrong way because I was very anti-cheat. And the whole competitive scene kind of went that direction where everyone just collaboratively agreed, let's just cheat together. So I took a break then too. You know, I've came back in the last couple years, but I decided let's just stay casual. You know, I intentionally didn't get involved in a serious clan to start competing again. I had a business to run. I've got a family. And I've kind of been really happy just having that kind of casual aspect to the game, but still getting to practice my attacks and keeping up with the meta and watching all the YouTubers and streamers. I still did all of that. And then, yeah, the moment I heard about Mavia, I had already built the game guild. We already had the structure and the business model, and it was operating successfully. So this was kind of like the last missing component, that last piece to the puzzle that I was like, okay, this now completes the model. I want to full focus on this. And the format just makes sense. A resource management game.
Yeah.
You can earn Ruby when you're not playing. There's very few games that have the ability to like work for you when you're not operating it.
Yeah, the whole template just translates so seamlessly. It just makes sense.
It does. And then, of course, you look at the backers supporting the project, you know, and even just a lot of the team members like Tristan on the AMA. He does amazing just projecting his energy and excitement.
So personable,
right?
You know? I want to be friends with the guy.
He's great.
Like,
I want to hear
that's
more of him.
buddy.
Yeah, Avon. You know, it's really amazing to see the art team and everybody involved. Sunny P and Vork, the admins in Discord, they're really highly involved with the community. They're super transparent about everything. You know, I feel like a lot of the things that I've kind of felt were missing from a lot of other play to earn titles, not only are they addressing, they're being very upfront about like, hey, here's the main problems, here's what we're doing to kind of address it. And maybe that's a good point for me to move the conversation towards the tokenomics a little bit and talking about that, because I feel like not only the way that they're doing it is so unique, I love how they've created this incentivization opportunity to keep everything within the ecosystem.
Yeah, it's really quite brilliant. I've actually done a little bit of research on some of the other high profile NFT games that are being constructed, and none of them have the quality and the engagement on all sides of the spectrum, from the community but also from the dev team. Like what you were saying with the transparency of everything that they're putting out, even from like the surveys of the designs they're going to be using for the game, the detail in the game deck, how they're putting on constant AMAs and engaging with the community. And they have a roadmap. Like, you know what they're doing. You know what they're building towards. You know what they're inspired by. Everything is transparent for everybody to see. And then the way that they've incorporated that into a sustainable tokenomics system is just very, very impressive. For somebody who has almost zero experience in this industry prior to getting interested in Heroes of Mavia, it's kind of shocking to me that there's such little transparency in a lot of the other projects that are occurring. It seems like this should be the industry standard, and I'm surprised that this actually isn't the case. It makes me think of how a lot of people, I don't know this, but I suspect that a lot of people who are getting involved in NFT games are not actually gamers. They're interested in profiting off of a system that's gaining a lot of popularity, and so they're using interesting branding and marketing to try to draw people in. And it might be a really interesting investment opportunity that pays out. It might not, but the point is, you don't actually know what they're building towards. It doesn't seem like there's any heart in the projects that are solely focused on acting as an investment. You know, whereas this, it's an investment opportunity, and people are stepping in from that perspective, but the investors are actually going to be creating opportunities for people who want to play the game.
Yes.
Which is completely different. It's a completely different system.
It is, and it's interesting that you bring that up, because I also feel like it's so new in this space that a lot of projects haven't had an opportunity to create a model like this because a lot of the lessons weren't learned yet in this play to earn ecosystem. Mavia's kind of been able to look at a lot of other play to earn titles, see their faults, see some of the mistakes they've made, and this is their go at it. So you bring up a point about it being the standard. I feel like Mavia is going to pave the way with their tokenomics model that a lot of other projects now moving forward will look at Mavia as the example. And that's what's kind of so interesting about the innovation in this space is projects are just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. And they haven't had an opportunity to get to this point. Like I'll give an example, the 15% fee to take the Ruby out.
Yeah.
A lot of people might look at that at first and go, oh, why would I pay that fee? Well, it's because they're trying to incentivize keeping the Ruby within the ecosystem to further upgrade your base, your heroes, your statue NFTs. But if you go the other route with their governance token, they don't have that fee. And the reason they're doing that is because it's going to increase the market cap of that governance token. So it's going to help the entire project, help the ecosystem by having us go that route rather than extracting with the Ruby. But hey, maybe you do need some money. You can still take it out. There's just that 15% fee there.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, again, just makes sense. The way that they've built in the sustainability in a system, like just it's common sense to a beginner that if you have a resource that is constantly being generated in game and there's no way of actually burning that token or disincentivizing pulling it out to dump it for cash, it's going to devalue the entire currency. That's common sense.
Yeah, exactly.
To create a system that incentivizes keeping that resource in game while also giving people the freedom to pull it out, but disincentivizing that movement gives the best of both worlds. Because if somebody does need to access some kind of liquidity, that's available to them. But then you're also rewarded financially for reinvesting that in game by building the value of your NFTs alongside growing your in-game strength. It's brilliant.
It is. And kind of moving along, thinking about that more with the governance token and the Ruby. I like how there's even a 10% bonus when you bring Ruby in. So they're incentivizing you purchasing Ruby to bring into the game. And that might be the most common route when it's like, okay, it's time to upgrade my base. I want to take some money, bring it in. And then it's being burned. That Ruby doesn't go to the development team. Right? It's just burned. It helps the player base. It helps the ecosystem. It's going to be really interesting to see what kind of earnings or potential there is with the land, and of course where the skill comes in. And this is where I'm super excited. Wager matches is going to be my main focus. I know it, especially from what I've heard. There's no limit that I know of yet on those wager matches. So I think about like sports betting and streaming. Like imagine streaming $1,000 matches. That's going to get intense as hell. People are going to be super interested in watching the best players in the world fight the other best players in the world. The pot, it's going to be like a poker game where bigger the pot, the more intensity, the more excitement. And I think this could actually be a really positive way to bring sport betting and facilitate that in a way that's allowed. Whereas compared to traditional Web 2 games, that's very frowned upon against terms of service. If you're caught doing it, you're banned from the game. It gets rid of all of that kind of muckiness about it.
Because everybody knows what they're getting involved in.
Exactly.
And you get to choose how you want to participate.
Yes.
Like you're not being pressured into participating in a wagered match. It's available to you because this is what the game is actually built on top of. It's like you get to wager the resources that you have gathered in game, which is your right because it is a currency.
Yes. Right. And if you want to do a dollar match, you can. If you want to do 10, 100, so on and so forth, that's completely your limitation. But I think about the opportunity for streaming in particular and the excitement that's going to come along with that.
Yeah, this is going to be esports level.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
100%. And that's why on our game guild, I wanted to be able to facilitate the different tiers where we have a tier for top tier competitive world-class players. Then we have another tier for aspiring players who are basically training or trying out for that. But then we also have the casual level where friends and family can join. Or maybe you are a pro player, but you're going to go traveling for the next 2 months. You want a break, move down to the casual clan. You can still be involved in the community and the family. It's not like you have to quit the team or leave. And I thought that was going to be really important to accommodate because of this competitive aspect. And we have confirmation now that alliances are 50, capped at 50 land assets. And that's, of course, I'm sure for the beta. Once the actual game comes out, I know that free to play will be able to be accommodated there. But now that we have some idea about the beta, and they actually just updated the roadmap literally the other day, we now know that there's private alpha testing, internal private alpha testing that's happening, which to me is probably just the team, which makes me wish I was on the team somehow to play. But we now see that beta testing is going to be Q3.
Yeah.
So we're actually getting kind of close to that. That's not that far away. That's a few months. And then also it showed that the Mavia token and the game launch and the Ruby token is all planned for Q4. And I'm actually really glad that they pushed the Mavia token release.
Yeah, I think it was a good call.
And how they were so on top of, hey, there's something going on in the market. Let's address our community immediately.
Yeah, and it's really fortunate that they had positioned themselves so that they weren't negatively affected by what the market is doing right now.
That's right.
I don't know if that was deliberate or if it was just circumstantial, but it's really, really fortunate for the Mavia team.
It is. And maybe we could talk about that a little bit, because right now the cost of land is at an all-time low, but it's because of what's going on in the market. You know, I'm sure we're all a little aware. We've all heard some kind of rumor or something, but basically, you know, a stable coin UST depegged. There, whether or not you believe there was market manipulation is opinion. You know, we don't actually know all the facts. Of course, there's a lot of rumors going on. Super interesting to see, though, that a stable coin could lose its backing or its peg. But then just weeks ago, there was news about how they were using Bitcoin to peg their stable coin, which was something that nobody else had done before. So everyone was already kind of, oh, that's really interesting. If you can pull this off, it's going to be amazing. We're kind of seeing a little bit of the fallout of that. You know, so the Mavia team came out and was like, look, more than 90% of our assets are in USDT and USDC. We're good. Don't worry. But that is a question now, is like, how many other game platforms or play to earn or projects had 30% of their reserves or 40%? So yes, there's blood in the streets and people are losing money, and I definitely feel sorry and bad for all them. And of course, nothing we say here is financial advice. This is just our opinion. But if there was ever a time to buy some land, I feel like now is a good time to do it, because we're seeing common land floor at like 0.44 ETH. I'm seeing rares at, you know, 1 ETH, legendaries 2.4, 2.6, and of course the cost of ETH has gone down.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You can basically get it at the same price that they first made it available to people.
Yeah, right? So why not pick up a couple now? This is, in my opinion, the time when you invest, right? Things are cheaper than they've been. Hold your conviction, get a couple land, get ready for that beta opportunity, you know, because right now, I think it's like 900 US roughly to get a common land. Just a few weeks ago, we were looking at 2,000. You know, that's a significant difference. Now, that has nothing to do with the project, in my opinion. That's more the state of the market.
Yeah.
But it's still an opportunity for people like us and guilds to capitalize on that, which is actually just going to allow more people to enjoy the beta.
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm actually quite happy about what's going on, even though I know it's negatively impacting a lot of people. In terms of the Mavia community, I think it's really, really helpful. My own personal perspective is I want the people who are genuinely interested in the game to accumulate assets for themselves, because that's the player base that's really going to drive everything forward. And they're going to benefit the most from actually accumulating assets so that they can build the value of their own NFTs.
Right. Those are the people we want involved.
Right. Like, this is one of the things that really convinced me to invest in this project by buying some land for myself, is that I actually believe in the game.
Yes.
And I'm not actually that surprised, but still a little bit, that there's such a huge volume of people who are simply approaching a project like this as an investment opportunity, even though it is a great investment opportunity, in my own personal opinion, for a lot of people. What I'm really passionate about is that this is a legitimate game.
Yes.
You know, this is not something that I've seen before in the NFT game territory. So the fact that they're actually putting this kind of quality into something that you can build and grow with, and actually participate in the co-creation of it, is what's so exciting for me. Like, I'm thrilled that they're engaging in the alpha testing already.
Yeah, me too.
Because that's what I'm concerned with. Like, I want to make sure that the game is balanced, you know, that the game is fun, that it's actually going to last a long period of time. because even looking at the investment potential from getting something like land this early on, that as an NFT is going to increase its value based on how far you can progress in the game.
That's right.
Just like I was doing some Clash of Clans research recently and watching a YouTuber who's seeing how long it takes to get to the max town hall level without putting any money into the game. And for those of you who haven't played Clash of Clans, you have to wait hours, days to upgrade any individual structure by the time you get to the higher town hall levels. And I think the guy was saying it takes over 6 years to get to the highest town hall level without putting any money into it. Now you take that and you apply it to Mavia, where if they have a similar structure and it takes, you know, even like half that time, a quarter of that time, where it takes 1.5 to 2 years to get to max level, the value of those bases
So much higher now.
So much higher. And as the game grows in popularity, that's really what drives the value of those plots of land up. So it's the time investment, but it's also the quality of the game.
Yes.
So the fact that they're already engaging in play testing and that they're opening up the beta testing to the community and the people who have invested into the project is so exciting.
It is, and there's something I've said a couple times too in the Discord. In April, there was 164 million monthly unique Clash of Clans players. If only 1% of that player base comes to Mavia, we're looking at 1.64 million players. There's only 10,000 lands right now.
It's outrageous.
So my mind just races with possibilities from investment opportunities and enjoyment. And that's why I feel like Mavia is the combination of all the best aspects that I'm most excited about with play to earn. And that's why I'm so committed personally. I've got the business committed, the game guild, the same conviction that you do in the project for all the right reasons. And I honestly couldn't be more excited.
Yeah. I even convinced my girlfriend.
Nice.
She is not a gamer, let me tell you.
Right on. Well, I told Melanie that if a Clash of Clans NFT game comes out, things are going to change for me. And then I remember when I told her months ago, I was like, yeah, so remember I told you if there was a Clash of Clans NFT game? She's like, did it happen? Like, yes. Uh-oh. So here we are. I'm just super excited to be on this ride with you, man. And of course, everyone else in the guild and just being part of the Mavia community. And we actually are running out of time here. I feel like we could talk for another hour easily about this. So I do want to thank everyone for joining us today on our episode with Coffee and Crypto, where we had DeusRising joining us. I'll have his Twitter information below if you want to follow him. Be sure to come join us in our Discord community if you want to continue with this conversation, or just leave a comment down below. And until next time, cheers. Yeah.